I'm Shahid Malvi. I'm head of grants at Leeds Community Foundation. I've got oversight and overall responsibility for the grant making function at the foundation, and I also work with a small hard-working programs team that help me deliver around 40 grant programs every year. Healthy Holidays works slightly differently due to its size and complexity. We work with a range of other colleagues and partners. Some of them are on the call today, so I'll start by introducing them. First of all, Martin Dean is on the call. Martin.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, hi, good to see you all.
And do you want to say who you are, just in case there are people there?
Yeah, so I'm Martin Dean. I work on a freelance basis for Leeds Community Foundation as the Healthy Holidays coordinator. So I've been looking after Healthy Holidays for, I think, about 18 months so far. Thanks, Shahid.
And we have Sarah Duffy here from Leeds City Council. Sarah?
Well, good morning, everybody, and I'm a relatively junior colleague in comparison to Martin because I've only been working on Healthy Holidays since the end of June, and I'm covering for Amelia Gunn's maternity leave. So I am currently Healthy Holidays coordinator, and I will be taking you I'll be working on the programme for the next year. So being party to the grants process for 2023. Which obviously covers not only third sector, but also the council provision and also the schools provision. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you for all the work that you have done on Healthy Holidays over 2022. I've been out and seen lots of provision over the summer, which has just been an absolute joy. I know that you're a key providers for Healthy Holidays in Leeds in the third sector, and I have nothing but respect for all of the work that you all do. And my background, as some people may know on the call, is in third sector. So I had 21 years in the third sector at Gipsall before coming to this post. It's an absolute joy to be here this morning at this briefing session, which is a real antidote to the greyness of the day and the chaos of the news, to be thinking about the 2023 Healthy Holidays programme for working with some of the most vulnerable young children and young people in the city of Leeds going into 2023. I am here and I will stay throughout the presentation. I've enjoyed working immensely with Martin over the past couple of months, and I think it's fair to say that we are meeting regularly and are fundamentally in agreement in terms of where we see the direction of Healthy Holidays going in Leeds. So yeah, but I will be on the call for a Q&A. Just, I'm sure there are some very pertinent questions that you are all wanting to ask me in terms of the budget and the criteria. And just to head off some of those questions at the outset, I'm afraid the Department for Education have not informed Leeds City Council of or any other authority for that matter, of the amount of budget that will be made available for the HAF programme in 2023, nor have they given an indication in terms of whether the criteria will change fundamentally. What they have said on the meetings that I've been at is that they don't, and these were the words that were used, was that they don't foresee any radical changes to either funding or criteria for the programme in 2023. And I think we can all make of that what we will. I'm not anticipating news on the budget for HAF coming until much later in the year. And I think the various departments have got quite a lot to be considering. So I suspect that we may, unfortunately, be way down the priority list at this moment in time. but it's certainly not down the priority list for myself or for the financial inclusion team at Leeds. And we just wanted to say a huge thank you for all the work that you've done throughout 2022, and an encouragement for you to continue into 2023. So thank you very much for having me today.
Okay, thanks for that, Sarah. So let's move on to the agenda and the kind of aim for this session. So it's going to be about reflecting on what's been achieved this year in terms of Healthy Holidays Programme 2022. We'll also outline during the presentation our current expectations for Healthy Holidays 2023. Also what we might expect to see in your application forms, key areas that we'd like you to focus on when putting those together. We'll take you through the eligibility criteria, application process, what the timelines are for submission, etc. And obviously you'll also have an opportunity for you to ask any further questions that you might have as well. So before I hand over to Martin, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Leeds Community Foundation. So it is an independent grant-making organisation. It's one of 47 community foundations across the country, taken together as a network in terms of the UKCF, which is a UK Community Foundation network. We'd be the 4th largest grant maker across the UK. Regionally, Leeds Community Foundation is the largest independent funder across Yorkshire and Humber. We give out around £4 million worth of grants a year, supporting just shy of 500 organisations. And the Community Foundation model requires us to raise money from a range of different sources, so public sector, private sector, charities, trusts, foundations. And what we do is we invest that money through the various grant programmes that we run across Leeds and Bradford, sometimes even Wakefield, to make a positive change in communities. As well as funding, we also provide additional resources and support to help community groups with their projects. Increasingly, we're also doing unrestricted funding, and that's for organisations and supporting their core costs as well as the project costs that we have always funded. For example, through our flagship Leeds Fund programme, we have supported 36 organisations directly with their development plans. We've run a number of training workshops and facilitated peer support sessions as well. A little bit about our values. This is our mission statement. So it kind of underpins all our work here at the Foundation. We believe in creating opportunities for all through our programmes, being inclusive, fair, honest, transparent. In the current climate, some sections of society are being left behind, and we try to give hope through securing funds and working with the various donors, partners, community groups like yourselves as well, to effect positive change in communities and meet the most pressing needs. It's fair to say that Healthy Holidays is the jewel in the LCF crown. It's an amazing programme providing healthy food and activity for children across the city. The feedback that we get from families, from the parents, and the various evaluation reports that we read from you guys sometimes bring great joy and the occasional tear, it has to be said. One thing it does do is demonstrate just how vital a lifeline the provision is each year. So I'm going to now hand over to Mr. Healthy Holidays himself, Martin Dean, who's our Healthy Holidays coordinator, who's going to take you through our plans for Healthy Holidays 2023 in a little bit more detail, with the proviso, as Sarah's also mentioned, that some things may change once we hear back from the DFE. So over to you, Martin.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and yeah, I think it's great to see everybody on the call. Because in front of me, I can't see all your pictures. I can just see the slides and one person, which happens to be Shahed. And but I'm taking it on trust that you're all there, and I know, as has been said, all the commitment to the people who've already delivered Healthy Holidays. And if there are new people on the call, it's also a delight to have your interest in Healthy Holidays, because I think one of the things which has made it a fantastic programme is the enormous variety of third sector organisations who've been involved, as well as the partnership with the statutory sector in the form of schools and Leeds City Council. But let's get into the presentation. Let's get into some of this detail. So on this first slide, I'm really reflecting on the fact, as has already been mentioned, funding has not been confirmed by the Department for Education. My expectation is that even if everything is going swimmingly, even if we have a perfectly functioning government, it's unlikely that the council would get that nod that the money will come until December. And I think for LCF and for all of us involved in this activity, it gave us really a key choice. Did we want to be safe and certain and take no risks and not do the bidding process until after the funding had come in late December? Or did we actually want to try and get ahead of the game, and particularly to make sure that those of you who are in the groups who deliver Healthy Holidays have more time both to prepare a bid and to think about what you're going to write and what you want to do in 2023, and also if you're successful in the bidding process, more time to mobilise. And so I think for all of us there was this kind of trade-off. And on that basis, we've decided to launch the round now. That means that the response time, there's quite a long time for you to submit bids. I think the deadline is in early December. That comes up later in the slides, and so that gives you a decent amount of time to prepare your bid. And I think that's really important that as a foundation we kind of stand up to that value, that people should have time to prepare. Clearly, really helpfully, Sarah has given us an update that we don't expect, the indications we're getting from the civil servants is that we don't expect there to be major changes in the HAF funding arrangements going forward. But clearly, if they are, that will need to be reflected in the decisions that are made subsequent to the bidding round. So that may be reflected in future funding agreements between the LCF and the successful applicants. But we do think that it was right and it was important to give you a bit more time. So having kind of laboured that point, if we could move on to the next slide. So just want to kind of reflect a bit on what happened during 2022, and I don't kind of want to fall too deeply into the trap of backslapping. I always want to take that as read, but I'll just make this point. The program overall is an absolutely fantastic program, and I'm immensely proud of what I've seen. Like Sarah, as part of the monitoring arrangements, I've either met with delivery managers, or I've actually come out and seen lots of schemes over the course of the last year, and everything that we've said has been really good. I think these reflections are just, you know, where we think that there's slight inconsistencies or there's some things for us collectively to think about. So, you know, so this is the 1 or 2% where we think things could be collectively improved. I think the first thing we want to say, not an improvement, is that the activities that are provided are absolutely excellent. It's clear that's the main focus for providers, is providing excellent activities, and we think that we obviously want that to continue, and we particularly want the variety to continue. I think giving new opportunities to young people, really important. I think that the programme has given lots of opportunities, particularly through the offers of the local authority, places like Temple Newton, Lotherton Hall, Herd Farm, together with the opportunities which providers have self-generated for the coast and the countryside, to expose young people to new opportunities, attractions and trips, but also very specifically within that, swimming. And so I would really encourage providers who are bidding this year to think about how they can be flexible and how they can adopt those, embrace those opportunities which are offered to young people. I've spoken to numbers of providers who've explained to me how young people they're working with have never been to some of the great attractions that there are here in Leeds, and certainly may not have, with their families, left the city that often. So I think that's an important area for improvement. I'm going to talk a little bit more, so I'll hold off now about the quality of food and nutrition education. But I think what I will say is those have moved up the agenda in the last year. The work which we've done with Foodwise has very much helped that. and those are priorities for the DFE and for our partnership. And then the final thing I'll say is we've got some wonderful, well-run projects, and the making sure that the knitting works for something like Healthy Holidays is really important. Making sure that reports are written and returns are made on time is something which is enormously important for the effective governance of Healthy Holidays. And I've been really grateful for the attention that people have made to that over 2022. But clearly it will be important, if, like the young lady with the bow and arrow, that we're going to hit our targets during the course of 2023. So enough of my cheesy comments. If we move on to the next slide. So just a summary there really of the overarching aims of Healthy Holidays. It's its 6th year. We started locally, and really then government caught up with us. I think I would want to emphasize the partnership working locally, that the connection between the projects that happen and children on free school meals and their families is something which is really important. And again, the best projects really do have that really strong link, often with local schools, but also with other community organisations and other services that make a difference in local communities. It is about food insecurity, hunger, isolation and inactivity as the fundamental driving issues that, without a scheme like that, those issues are potentially very overwhelming in different communities in Leeds. It is about food, but it's equally about activities. And the list on the right hand of the slide is just really an illustration of the variety of things which providers have offered. We want to offer as much variety as we possibly can to children and young people through healthy activities. And then I think the other dimension is really about providing support. The difficulties that children face through poverty and isolation and their families face often mean that emotional and social support is very important, so they don't feel isolated. And so for a successful scheme, being well linked in to those who can provide support in the community is again very important. Moving on to the next, please. I'm already sounding like a dull bureaucrat, and so I wanted to put in the side that is about fun. This is for the school holidays. And this is the time when children and young people are on their downtime. I did go to one scheme where I was told one of the things that kids just like to do is slide down a hill when they get some beautifully muddy backsides, as they have fun sliding down this hill on a regular basis. There are lots of ways that children can entertain themselves and have fun, and I just wanted to put that in as a slide. Let's not lose out fun and enjoyment for children and young people as being a fundamental driver of what we're trying to achieve in the Healthy Holidays scheme. But moving on, I guess on the balance side is we're aiming to meet needs in Leeds, and I think over the last year I've become a bit humble about this. This is a single scheme, spending on the voluntary sector side something short of £1 million. This doesn't change the world. It doesn't feed all the children and young people involved fully through the holidays. But what it does is make a massive contribution to making sure that through that holiday period, people do have the food they need, they do have the enjoyment which they need, and they are able to work with other people. I suppose the issue of this slide is really we are about meeting needs in Leeds, and that need is enormous. I think there is often, not unreasonably, a pressure from people to say there are people other than free school meals families who are in need, and you will not find me arguing with that at all. But this scheme is targeted onto children and the families who are on free school meals. At the end of the day, what the funder is looking for is 85% of those who participate coming from free school meals. It is going to be the need is going to be greater, or put it another way, things are going to be worse because of the cost of living crisis, the cost of fuel, the cost of food, food inflation running at 15% in the country at the moment. That will hit the poorest families hardest. So I think this scheme becomes even more important. Cooking and food preparation skills become even more important. It is a citywide programme. That 30,000 children and young people, yes, there would be greater concentrations in the poorer areas of the city, in the traditional inner city where many of the people on the call work, but there are needs in every area of the city, and certainly as part of the 2023 programme, we would encourage schemes that support delivery right across Leeds metropolitan area. The guidance, as in 2022, does provide the opportunity for organisations to offer more than one project if that's something which they wanted to do. And we certainly think that may be a way in which we're able to reach more areas of the city than we have done before. Clearly, issues in the rounds, colleagues in the health sector call the wider determinants of health, the issues of well-being, issues of mental health, issues of activity levels. All of those are part of what we're trying to connect through Healthy Holidays. Healthy Holidays will not address all these issues on its own, but if they're part of the right local partnerships and part of a wider support to families, then it really can meet those wider needs. So if we can move on to the next slide. So yeah, let's get into some of the key points to consider and some of the detail. It is a project which is funded by the Department for Education, and it is their holiday activity and food programme, and that is the only source of funding at the moment that has been identified for healthy holidays. If you're preparing an application, I would strongly advise you to read the Department for Education's own guidance about the programme, and we've linked to that in the guidance that we've provided on the LCF website. I've already laid on with a trowel that this is about young people in receipt of free school meals, and it is only for, or it is for, not only, it is for the Easter, summer and Christmas periods. It isn't for half terms. We're working on the basis that the required dates won't change. So we're looking at 1 week, and a week is 4 days, 4 hours. That's the standard parameters. 1 week at Easter, 4 weeks in the summer, and 1 week at Christmas. You can make a proposal that doesn't cover all 3 holidays. We have some providers this year who are not providing all 3 holidays. Probably worth me saying, because I know someone will ask if I don't remember to say, we are open to, and the guidance we've published reflects that, as well as the majority of the provision providing both activity and food, we are open to funding some activity only provision. And as in previous years, that activity only provision would work with other providers who are supported across the programme. And so that's again about bringing variety to the provision that can be offered to children and families. As you write your bid, some obvious things to think about. Think about value for money. I mean, I think very much as a partnership, we want to get the right balance. We're not about providing cheap and cheerful schemes. We are about providing good quality schemes, but equally we do want to support as many children as possible for as many weeks as possible during 2023, because we do think that need will be there across the city. And obviously we're looking for you to provide the best possible experience for children and young people. So thinking about the variety of that programme, but as many of you also do, thinking about and reflecting to us as funders what young people and their families say to you. What is it that young people want, young people would like to see in their Healthy Holidays scheme. On the next slide. So on healthy food, yeah, I'm afraid you've all got a bit of a disappointment now, because at this point I'd really hoped to be handing over to Emma Andrews from Healthwise. Emma is really our expert support from the Foodwise programme, supporting us on the issues of healthy holidays and healthy food. Unfortunately, Emma has got COVID. I have spoken to her this morning, and I don't think her voice would have lasted. So yeah, she has given apologies. I think it's safe to say that the issue of the quality of the food offer and the associated issue of nutritional education is very much a newer part of the agenda, which has grown in the last year. So if you go to the DFE's criteria, they will talk very loftily about daily nutrition education and weekly nutrition and cooking guidance to families. And I think what Emma has done through Foodwise is produced the Foodwise toolkit. Again, there's a link to that guidance, which is there to really draw on the best practice that we already have in the programme and share that across, and really to look at how you can, as a provider, meet that nutritional education objective, but as much as possible without the children noticing. Actually, that's what we're doing. We're not talking about running classes, my earlier reference to it being fun, but looking at how we can guide young people to think about what nutrition is all about, to think about things like food growing, to think about things like taste testing as being some of the things which can be done. So please look at the Foodwise guidance. Just moving back to some of the bullet points on the right of the side, which are the core areas of the guidance. The DFE's guidance is that we are looking for a meal to be served as part of the provision, so that we are saying that a meal should be served as part of the provision. And once again, that would usually be a hot meal and usually be lunch. I think the issue of not being lunch probably is a reflection of some providers meeting the needs of older children where the activity might often happen in the afternoon and the meal might be a tea. That's absolutely fine. If you're not providing a hot meal, and I know a number of you don't, in the application process, you really need to explain why it's your view that a cold meal will meet the needs of the young people better than a hot meal. And there are some good reasons that relate to that, including, for example, some of the activities that you might be engaging in. So when I say on the fourth bullet point, the right meal for the right setting, then that's very much what I'm reflecting there. I think almost all of our projects offer more food and drink than the lunch, and certainly we would be looking for healthy food snacks through the day. Many projects that start in the morning offer breakfast or offer an opening food for young people when they arrive, and obviously healthy drinks in the form of water and smoothies and juice. On the food side, the aim is to mirror, and I would say look to exceed, the school food standards. So yeah, that's the baseline document. But really, I think we will be looking for as much as you can, the best healthy food can be provided. In terms of writing your bid, use the available money to budget for your own food. So don't think I've mentioned this yet. The budget available is up to £20,000 for your bid. So out of your costs that you're bidding for, think about how you're going to budget to purchase your own food, and that purchase can either be you purchasing ingredients and cooking through your own team of staff or volunteers, or alternatively food coming in from a supplier, and then you can look at supplementing that food from the food partners. But I think this does probably represent a change again in the balance of the programme from our early beginnings. We are very much saying that our core expectation is that you will buy ingredients using the budget provided to make the meals, or pay a supplier to make the meals for your children and young people. Just a word about suppliers and your own team. As it says on the slide, if it's your own team or your own volunteers, we would look for food hygiene certificates for those people. If you're going to work with a supplier, we will want to know who that supplier is, and we will be seeking advice from our colleagues on public health on their suitability. And so, just to be open and transparent, we will look at the public health inspection scores that have been achieved for those providers, and ideally we will be looking for 5-star providers to be 5-star rated suppliers to be the people that we work with. Clearly, if you can make a case for working with a local supplier who you think is really good, then we will look and absolutely look and consider that. So that's the slide on healthy food. Moving on, engaging activities. I'm not going to dwell too long on this, because I think, as I said at the beginning, I think on the sport, the dance, the games, the arts, the fun and engaging activities have been absolutely central to Healthy Holidays. I've been incredibly impressed with the variety of things, including, I have to say, my unexpected engagement with animals on a number of schemes over the years. We're looking for that huge variety of activity. One of the requirements of DFE is that there should be a minimum of 60 minutes of physical exercise per day. I mean, that really is talking about children and young people being active as part of the 4 hours of provision. It doesn't mean it needs to be PE, but it does need to involve them being active and being involved in movement. The activities you offer, they can be for children on their own, or they can be for children accompanied by parents or carers. That's entirely up to you. We do very much encourage including cookery activities or activities that support people's ability to engage in cooking healthy meals, and introducing children and young people to new foods and new flavours. We think all of those things are important. And then I think the other thing which we think is important is to give children a chance to try new things. And I've been enormously impressed by the variety of projects that we offer on Healthy Holidays. And I think really just to emphasise that idea that children and young people come along having not done something before and can engage in that, give things a try, and maybe become accomplished and learn that new skill, and maybe have a new activity that they take out more widely into their lives. So that's where we're at with engaging activities. On the next slide. So food is one thing, activity for a third, and then supporting children and families is the third area. I think, again, the humble part of me is wanting to say this is a short-term scheme covering a short part of children and young people's lives. Services and partners in the third sector and with schools and with the council, the NHS, the police and others are there throughout the year. So I think it's important that wherever possible, you look at how you engage with that wider network of support services that exist in the community, and do everything we can to make sure that families are able to engage with activities, support their children in their development, and feed families during the course of the entire year. So I'll come back to that again on a later slide, but I think a very important part of the process. On the next slide, Jess. So grant funding in this round for 2023, these are fairly standard, and if there are any issues or queries, by all means, check in with me or check in with the grants team. But in terms of the LCF funding, it is for community groups, charities, social enterprises, or other charitable organisations that have a constitution or relevant document, have a management committee, or a board of directors or trustees, 3 unrelated people, and obviously must have a bank account in the name of the group with 2 unrelated signatories. As I mentioned earlier, we are inviting organisations to apply for 1 or more than 1 projects, and we do think it's important. And during 2022, it happened that we had partnership bids with inexperienced or experienced but as yet unincorporated groups, and we really welcome both more than 1 project, particularly for geographic reach, but also established third sector organisations or charities taking new organisations under their wing and supporting them to take delivery more local and to work very much with children and young people in that local way. So that's who the funding is open to in this round. Tell them what you've told them. This is a repeat of things I've already said, but just really the reminder of the things that you need to really tick off as key criteria when you're preparing your bid. It's in-person fun activities. We want to appeal to the full range of children and their families. We are talking about school-age children, with the exception of those with special needs, where special needs young people we can support up to the age of 25. But we are talking about school-age children primarily. We're talking about nutritious, by default, hot, healthy meal for each child. We're talking about daily nutrition education and weekly nutrition education for families. And I've talked about the support that is there from Foodwise. Talked about Easter, summer and Christmas, the parameters. I probably should say, if I didn't quite say it earlier, that those timelines are minimums. If you want to offer more than 4 weeks in the summer, if you want to offer more than 1 week at Easter, more than 1 week at Christmas, certainly that is something which you can do. We obviously would look, I say obviously, but we must have a safeguarding policy with all organisations we work with to make sure that children and families are protected and looked after. We need level 2 food hygiene certificates to make sure all our food, of course, is safe for people to eat. I have to say, in 5 years, I don't think we've had any issues in that area. So food hygiene certificates are important. And we will, as a panel, clearly look at value for money. We're looking at as the best provision we can possibly offer, but for as many children and families as it can possibly be offered. So those are our key criteria. And then once again, just emphasising the partnership element of this project. As Sarah said right at the beginning, all being equal, the council will once again be looking to commission schools to provide healthy holidays directly. I think Leeds has the largest schools programme or one of the largest schools programs in the country, and so we'll be very much hoping that local schools come forward to make provision available. And then the council, through its own community hubs, through its own services like Breeze, will be looking to make a direct offer in communities alongside our third sector delivery. So it's a widespread scheme. There are lots of children and families. This is not about competition. It's very much about people working together in communities. So we'd really like to see that coming through as a value in the bids. So think about how you can work, particularly with local schools and local council provision. think about how you might work with other third sector deliverers in your area, and also think about how you reach out to local referring organisations, how you reach out to those with specific expertise. In terms of other supporting partners, we will look as a partnership as to how we support workforce development. We don't have a pre-described programme for that at this stage for 2023. I think what I would say is, in your planning, think about whether there is the opportunity for your staff to engage, or your volunteers to engage in workforce development opportunities as they arise. I think I will say again, to cut off a potential question, we as LCF and our partners in the council will do our best to make sure that we give as much notice as possible. I know that organisations need notice to engage effectively with training opportunities. I've already mentioned Leeds City Council services at the beginning, and we expect that offer to be made by the local authority. We particularly refer to it this year. That's kind of a new little chapter in the guidance that we've published. So think about how you might want to engage with that. And then in respect of the food providers, really in terms of the list as I've written it on the slide, Catering Leeds will remain as an organisation owned and managed by the council, who will provide a catering offer. Clearly, as a provider, you will need to make your own links with Catering Leeds if you want Catering Leeds to be your provider. And then Fair Share, Rethink Food and the Cultural Food Offer are really there as supporting partners. I think some of the best schemes have used the resources that are provided through Fair Share and Rethink to provide wider support for children and young people, and wider support for their families. Lots of providers have provided food parcel offers for children and young people and their families, so that there is that wider food offer beyond the ingredients that you buy using the grant for healthy holidays. So that's the thing about wider partnership supports. I've talked about the £20,000 that you can apply for. What can you include within that? Well, activity costs. So include the costs of the required expertise, include the cost of staff. If you need equipment, if you need venues, then those costs can be included. You can include the costs of the food which you'll be providing, and as I've said probably plenty of times now, have a firm plan about how you source the ingredients, where you're going to buy from, have an understanding of what they're going to realistically cost. And then in terms of other costs, costs of your staff, expenses for volunteers, your overhead costs, planning and administration, food preparation time, shopping time, travel time, travel costs, costs for getting the hygiene certificates, and costs to allow the staff time to provide the monitoring data, which I went on about at the beginning. Your costs for EVES or venue hire, and you can buy small items, for example, of catering kit equipment or sports equipment, but not larger items like computers. So I would think of the capital really as being about resources rather than really about capital in its classic sense. The application guidance is now published on the Leeds Community Foundation website, and so you can see that there, and then you can click through to the application form. You need to register your relevant email address, and then you can compile your application online. As we said at the beginning, we're allowing you more time. It's the 9th of December, at 12 noon, that we're closing application. So that does give a few weeks for you to write your application. So if you've got any queries about the application form or the eligibility of your organisation, then you can get in contact with Shahid's team at the grants box, the grants email box at Leeds Community Foundation. If you've got queries about the programme more generally, you can get in touch with me, and my email address is there on the middle of the screen. And then for specific queries around healthy eating, then get in touch with Emma through the info@foodline email address. So I think that draws us to a close. I think that's quite enough slides and quite enough talking with me. We'll stop Shahid for any Q&A.
Yeah, just opening up. There's not been many questions in the chat, but yeah, anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? We've got Martin, Sarah's here as well, and myself. We can kind of field any if you have any. You're going to stop sharing the screen as well, maybe. Right. Let's see if you can. There we go.
Yeah, that's good to see everybody. There was a question there from Gareth about is there a working cost per head to work to, and the simple answer to that is no, there isn't. The costs very much obviously depend on the activity that you will be delivering in stuff you're doing. We don't want to discourage people putting applications in things that might be more costly. So we don't have a standard rate. I think what I would say is your application needs us to convince us that the costs are appropriate to the things that you're delivering. So that was that one, Shahid.
Yeah.
I can't see all the questions.
I have a question. I have a question, Martin.
Go on, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Shahid. Well, first of all, thanks for a really informative presentation today, Martin. That was really helpful. Kind of consolidated a lot of stuff, so thank you for that. It's my first experience this year of having run this Healthy Holidays scheme, and I have to say that I've found it thoroughly enjoyable and rewarding. I have a question and an observation, if I may, please, Martin. The question I have is that it's frequently been quoted to me, and they're both around food, really. It's been frequently quoted to me that there is an 85% threshold of children who are in receipt of school meals, and that there is sometimes a 15% discretionary in terms of when we're inviting attendees. It would be useful to have some guidance about that. And the second part of my commentary is really about, it's an observation, and it's really around our experience of having run summer healthy holiday camps at particularly high temperatures and where there's been a lot of children running around and indulging in exercise. We do our best, obviously, as a criteria, as a fundamental criterion, to give the children a free school, a hot meal. But quite often, whether we've got elevated temperatures, as we have seen over the summer, where it's been a really hot environment, the children sometimes just don't eat. And that's really understandable from their perspective, but frustrating from ours. So I suppose I'm not expecting you to respond necessarily to the second bit of what I've just said, Martin. I was just kind of throwing out our feedback, if you'll forgive the pun, about that. And the first question is really about that 15% split. So I'll shut up now.
Okay, that's really helpful, Paul. And thanks for engaging as you and everyone does in the scheme. The DFE guidance is really clear that this is a scheme for children and young people on free school meals, and I mean that is really frustrating. I think for all of us in Leeds, I think I can say that we know. In fact, there's a campaign, isn't there, ongoing, saying that not everyone on universal credit qualifies for free school meals, and I'm pretty sure that the powers that be in Leeds would say that that should be the case, but the truth is it isn't. And so this funding is for children on free school meals. I think so we really need bids for 2023 to show us how you're going to focus on reaching children on free school meals and recruiting them to your provision. And I think that's where the partnership with schools is in particular, as well as other local partners, schools in particular is really quite critical to this programme, because of course schools know who the free school meal children are, and they also know who the most at risk children and young people are. Now again, this is not a simple thing, and I'm not going to pretend it is a simple thing, because there is a balance in running the schemes. If we only ran the schemes for the absolutely most in need, what we would find is that much of our provision would be empty, because we know actually persuading those families to attend provision is one of the hardest things that happen. So while we want to do everything we can to reach those most in need families, in fact we need to try and reach the wider free school meals group. So we are looking for 85% free school meals. The flexibility of 15% is the get out of jail card. But when you're writing a bid, you're thinking about how you might deliver this. Thinking about how it reaches free school meals children is really what needs to happen.
Can I just come in there, Martin, just
Yeah.
to kind of reiterate really what you've said. I totally accept as representative of the council here, but the fact is that this funding is predicated upon that criteria. There is the tolerance of 15% to work with children who are otherwise vulnerable, but essentially 85% of participants should be in receipt of free school meals, and they or otherwise be meet the criteria of having special educational needs or disabilities. And we are monitored very closely on that as an authority, as are all others. That is a key component. Hence our asking you in your monitoring, because that's a key component of our monitoring for the Department for Education. So whilst it's a moot point, and I think all of us would agree that there are very many more children who are vulnerable at this, particularly at this time. The fact is that the funding is predicated upon that criteria. And in terms of, I note your observation, Paul, in terms of the food, and I was very fortunate to visit your provision in association with Airborough Learning Partnership, the school, and we were very impressed. And I think there was. I think it's fair to say, and I would reiterate exactly what Martin has said, which is there is an expectation that a hot meal will be provided. And I think given the previous bit of the conversation that we've had around how many children, how vulnerable some of these children are and these families, we're also concerned around if people are struggling with food costs, the chances are that they're struggling with energy costs as well. And so it might be the only opportunity that these children have. That said, given the exceptional temperatures that we experienced over summer, I don't think anybody would have any concerns over a kind of pasta meal or a cold kind of pasta salad or something like that. But I think the issue is, and what we're all trying to avoid, is that kind of pack up type of arrangement where children are given essentially a sandwich, that kind of thing, because the chances are, again, where families are struggling, particularly with energy costs as well as food costs, that may be what they're going home to.
Yeah.
And so that's certainly the position that I'm coming at, and our rationale. I hope that helps.
Excellent. Okay, Vikrant, I think you were next.
Thank you so much, Shahid and Martin, for the wonderful presentations. Very useful. So thank you for that. And we are really pleased that it's continuing the program in the next year as well, because we think it reaches out the most vulnerable, particularly during holiday times. But my question might be silly. What I wanted to ask was, if maybe I know the answer already, but if we wanted to take kids for residential for a couple of days during summer, is that kind of cost covered as part of this program?
It isn't, and
it isn't. Okay,
it isn't. I mean, and I think it's interesting. There's always a line, isn't there? And I think the line in relation to healthy holidays is day trips.
Okay.
I think in my presentation I was really giving a strong signal that we think day trips are an excellent thing for children and young people, but we wouldn't expect healthy holiday money to be used for residential.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then the second question is, Martin, is if we have ponies and animals, etc., that we invite for events, that's covered. We are not crossing our line there, are we?
You're not. No, I've seen some amazing things with animals over the last at some of the provision I visited during the year. I mean, clearly you as an organisation need to satisfy yourself that what you're doing is safe. But yes, if it's something which is exciting and interesting for young people, which I'm sure that would be, then that's absolutely fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vikrant. Jane, you were next. Jane Dawson.
Yeah, I mean, I know Martin knows me, but some of you won't. I am actually a Leeds City councillor for the Chapel Allerton ward. I can see Loran on the call and some other people that I know. First thing to Vikrant, don't forget we've got some things in the city like Meanwood Valley Urban Farm that would be only too happy to welcome as many children who want to go along. I'm sure if you ring the CEO, Adam, it'd be very welcoming. But I wanted to just ask a question about building capacity, because as councillors, we do have a much smaller pot of money that's for universal provision for the children in our particular community committee areas, and we get bids coming in. And one of the things we're always saying is, are you providing food at those, you know, when you're providing those things? Because there are children that are in the, and I hate to quote Theresa May, in the just about managing category, and that category is getting bigger every day with all the cost of living pressures on mortgages and on, well, let's hope it changes soon, but there's lots of pressures on fuel and energy and food costs and so on. But we have got some money where we can actually potentially help to build that capacity, so that the people, the young people that you can't have because of the monitoring, you might be able to include. It must be really hard for you as third sector organisations to actually turn people away or discourage them from coming when they're in friendship groups or they go to school together and so on. So number one, don't forget your local councillors. We do have a small pot of money, but how can we get involved in making sure that our young people are involved and help you as well to deliver the fantastic things that you do as third sector organisations? So it's an open question, really. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I mean, I'll just give one quick response to this. I mean, I think what Healthy Holidays gives from the third sector point of view is a really good network of organisations who, by the end of this process, will be funded for 2023 and available to provide the provision which is funded. I think that does give organisations a quite firm base potentially to work off to then do other funded activities. And I think that idea that we can then look at other funds that are provided, whether it's through community committees, which I still remember all about community committees, and other local authority funds, and also from other funds through the likes of Leeds Community Foundation, that organisations have a capacity to grow. And I also would hope capacity to work in partnership in local communities. And I know in Jane's ward that there's a real strong track record of those sorts of partnerships. So there are lots of criteria in Healthy Holidays. I think I would say to organisations, meet those criteria, but then see how you can link up with other organisations locally to do the best you can in your local neighbourhood. And I know that's what third sector organisations do.
Thanks, Martin. There's a question in the chat, maybe one for you, Sarah. It's an educational question. Can large educational organisations with more than one school or college put an application in?
Thank you, Shahed. I'm actually just responding
Yes,
in the chat,
sorry.
James, because I know James.
Right.
So, and who is from Leeds City College and undertook a great pilot programme this year, and again Corinne and I were very fortunate to see that. James, it's lovely to see you on the call, but the schools and education organisations, that the grant round is administered directly by our team within the council, and that will be, well, certainly our briefing sessions are intended to go live within November, and you will be advised of that. Now, I don't know whether it's also worth, as I mentioned, perhaps in my response to Paul. So I know Guiseley Community Foundation have worked with Airborough Learning Partnership, so namely Guiseley School and another couple of schools in the area. So I don't know whether that's why you were mentioning that, but essentially a school or college application will go directly through the council and through our team, and you'll certainly be made aware of that.
Can I just pick up on that, Sarah, in response to James as well? Outside of this meeting, I'd be very happy to chat with James about our positive experiences of working with Airborough Learning Partnership.
Okay.
So I'm very happy to share whatever intelligence we've had with James.
Yeah, thank you for that, Paul. I mean, there's some real positives around it, but there are some issues as well in terms of monitoring requirements, and I know sometimes people have struggled in terms of directing the cohorts and also the numbers that each of you were able to attract. So just to sort of address that in the round, really.
Okay. Any further questions? Anybody? No. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you so much for attending the briefing session, and best of luck with your applications. It is now on the open grants round, as previously mentioned. If you want to go on there, check the criteria. If you do have any questions while you get on with the application forms, do get in touch with the grants team or Martin directly. And, yeah. Look forward to reading your applications.